Good evening, I'm Amirul Aiman. Here are the top stories for tonight. Palestinians have begun returning to northern Gaza as the ceasefire takes effect. And Malaysians detained by Israel, part of the Freedom Flotilla, have arrived safely in Istanbul. That and more coming up on AWANI International. Palestinians have begun returning to northern Gaza after the Israeli military confirmed that a ceasefire is in effect. According to the Israeli military, the truce began at 12 p.m. local time. Under the peace plan, Hamas has until midday on Monday to release all Israeli hostages, while Israel will free hundreds of Palestinian detainees. Earlier, Israeli forces announced that the troops have pulling back from some parts of the Gaza under the first phase of US President Donald Trump's peace plan. Meanwhile, hundreds of aid trucks are expected to surge into Gaza to help its 2 million people, most of whom have been displaced. Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya said the group received guarantees from the US and other mediators that the war is over. Meanwhile, the US is sending about 200 troops to Israel to help support and monitor the ceasefire deal in Gaza. The mission is expected to also include troops from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the UAE. Their role will be to oversee, observe, and ensure there are no violations or incursions of the truce in Gaza. The deal marks the most significant move yet toward ending a conflict that has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians and left much of Gaza in ruins. Nine Malaysian activists detained by Israeli forces during the Freedom Flotilla mission to Gaza have safely arrived in Istanbul. The group touched down at Istanbul airport at around 7:30 p.m. Malaysian time, following their deportation from Israel earlier in the day. Their release came after extensive diplomatic efforts involving Malaysia's foreign ministry, Turkish authorities, and several humanitarian organizations. Among those detained were Astro AWANI's journalist Shafiq Shukri Abdul Jalil. They had joined the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, an international mission aimed at challenging Israel's blockade of Gaza by sea. Earlier this week, their vessel was intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters. The Malaysians were then taken to Ketziot prison in southern Israel, where they were held alongside more than 80 other activists. The 9 Malaysians are now in Istanbul, where they will undergo medical assessments and debriefings before returning to Kuala Lumpur. The Freedom Flotilla carried medical supplies and humanitarian aid intended for Gaza. Israel, however, accused the participants of attempting to breach its maritime blockade. The United Nations has unveiled a 60-day plan to deliver large-scale humanitarian aid to Gaza once a ceasefire takes effect. UN Aid Chief Tom Fletcher says the operation is ready to roll with 170,000 tons of food, medicine, and essentials already in place.
The goal, according to Fletcher, is to feed 2.1 million people across Gaza and give targeted nutritional support to 500,000 suffering from severe malnutrition. The plan will also support bakeries and community kitchens and provide cash assistance to 200,000 people so they can buy food of their choice. The plan also focuses on clean water and sanitation for 1.4 million people, restoring water systems and providing hygiene supplies. Healthcare support is part of the plan too, with medical equipment, medicines and emergency care. Much of Gaza has been reduced to rubble since Israel's military offensive began 2 years ago. With aid deliveries heavily restricted, famine has already been declared in several areas.
Stay tuned for more after the break.
The Reds sudah bersedia. Manchester United bakal merasakan ancamannya. Tetapi dalam pertempuran seperti ini, apa sahaja boleh berlaku. Mampukah The Red Devils mengejutkan dunia? Setiap detik demi maruah. Inilah One for the Fans. Liverpool menentang Manchester United secara langsung dan eksklusif di Astro.
Ada yang perdebatan bahawa GST perlu dikembalikan semula kerana ada yang mempertikaikan bahawa SST itu tidak efektif.
Isu buruh kanak-kanak bukan sahaja dalam bentuk fizikal tetapi juga bentuk moden yang lebih licik dan juga terselindung.
Kita tengok buruh kanak-kanak dan ada juga buruh paksa kanak-kanak.
Perkumpulan FB dikenali sebagai grup budak-budak sekolah rendah yang didakwa menyebarkan gambar remaja perempuan tidak senonoh telah pun ditutup. Welcome back. US President Donald Trump has proposed banning Chinese airlines from flying over Russia on routes to and from the United States. Trump says the current practice gives Beijing an unfair competitive advantage by cutting fuel costs and travel time.
The U.S. Transportation Department said the move aims to level the playing field between U.S. and Chinese carriers. It claimed the current arrangement has created a significant competitive imbalance. Chinese airlines have been given 2 days to respond to the proposed order, with the ban potentially taking effect as early as November. The decision could impact some U.S. flights operated by Air China, China Eastern, China Southern and Xiamen Airlines. It could also complicate ongoing discussions between Boeing and China on a major aircraft deal involving 500 jets. Before the COVID pandemic, more than 150 weekly flights connected the two countries. That number has been cut to about a third. The proposal comes a day after China announced tighter controls on rare earth exports, and just weeks before Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are expected to meet in South Korea.
China will charge new fees on US ships docking at its ports in a tit-for-tat move in response to a similar American policy. Starting 14 October, US vessels will pay 400 yuan or about $56 per net ton per voyage. The fees will also apply to vessels built in the United States or flying the American flag. China's Transport Ministry called the move a countermeasure to similar American charges, with the fees set to rise gradually over the coming years. Starting 14 October, vessels built in China or operated by Chinese companies will also face a flat fee of $80 per net ton per voyage when calling at American ports. The US fees on China-linked vessels are part of a broader push to revive American shipbuilding and curb China's commercial and naval strength. China has become the world's top shipbuilder over the past 2 decades, with its largest shipyards handling both commercial and military projects. The United States has slapped new sanctions on nearly 100 people, companies and vessels accused of helping Iran export oil and petrochemicals in violation of US restrictions. Among the targets is a crude oil terminal in China, allegedly receiving shipments from vessels linked to Iran's so-called shadow fleet.
The Treasury Department sanctioned Shandong Jincheng Petrochemical Group, an independent Chinese refinery, for purchasing millions of barrels of Iranian oil since 2023. According to the Treasury, several of the sanctioned tankers had transported millions of barrels of Iranian oil to China, in direct violation of US sanctions. US officials say the money from these oil sales helps fund Iran's nuclear and missile programs and supports militant groups in the Middle East. Iran has denied those claims. The State Department has also blacklisted a China-based chemical logistics company accused of receiving Iranian petrochemicals. Beijing has condemned the move, calling it interference in what it says is normal trade between China and Iran.
Donald Trump has suggested that NATO should consider removing Spain from the alliance over its low defense spending. The US president argues Spain has no excuse for failing to meet the new 5% of GDP target set by NATO members. That spending plan was approved in June, fulfilling one of Trump's key priorities to push Europe to pay more for its own defense. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has rejected the 5% target, saying it clashes with the country's welfare policies and national priorities. Speaking at the White House alongside Finnish President Alexander Stubb, Trump urged European leaders to pressure Spain to boost its defense commitments. Spain joined NATO in 1982. The 32-member alliance has faced renewed scrutiny since Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Taiwan is set to build a new multi-layered air defense system called T-Dome to bolster its defenses against enemy threats amid increased military and political pressure from China. In his National Day address, President Lai Ching-te says defense spending will increase with a special military budget to be proposed by year's end.
While Lai gave no details of the T-Dome, sources told Reuters it could resemble Israel's Iron Dome, capable of intercepting a range of short-range weapons under any weather conditions. Beijing responded by warning Taiwan that pursuing independence through force would only push it closer to conflict. Lai added that Taiwan will increase its defense spending to more than 3% of its GDP next year and up to 5% by 2030. Defense has become a polarizing subject in Taiwan, which remains divided about how the government should respond to the Chinese threat. Lai's opponents accuse him of using the fear of a Chinese invasion to shore up his support and urge more diplomacy with Beijing. Taiwan's defense ministry had recently warned that China is enhancing its ability to attack the island and could turn its regular military drills near Taiwan into a surprise attack at any time.
Myanmar's junta says Malaysia will send election observers to monitor the country's upcoming national elections. It is the first such commitment from an ASEAN country since the military seized power in 2021. The announcement came after Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Mohamad Hassan met junta leader Min Aung Hlaing in Nay Pyi Taw, where they discussed the elections and efforts to restore peace. State media quoted Hassan as pledging to send observation teams, saying Malaysia, as current ASEAN chair, would support Myanmar's election efforts. According to state media, 57 political parties and more than 5,000 candidates have registered to take part in the December 28 elections, with results expected in January. The election will be the first since the 2021 coup that ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government. The election is being viewed as a test of ASEAN's approach to engaging Myanmar's isolated junta, which has been excluded from senior regional meetings since 2022. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has won the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for her fight against dictatorship. The 58-year-old industrial engineer was barred from running for president in 2024, preventing her from challenging President Nicolas Maduro. She has largely been in hiding since those elections.
The Nobel Committee recognized her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. Machado is the first Venezuelan and the sixth Latin American to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Machado was barred from running in last year's presidential elections won by Maduro, who has been in power since 2013. The polls were widely criticized internationally as neither free nor fair. The announcement comes as former U.S. President Donald Trump continued to claim he deserved the prize, with some supporters, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, backing him. The White House criticized the decision, saying the committee prioritized politics over peace, adding that Trump will continue working to make peace, end wars, and save lives.
That report wraps up AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the rivalries, strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Amirul Aiman. Thank you for watching and good night.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia dengan ekonomi yang semakin